on a planet where 3 men have 1,000-foot-long sandworms in their pants. It's Rich Hurley, also known as Dr. Durant, with his compadres in their still suits, Max Overnighter.
Hi, everybody.
Joining us back on the planet Dune after a long hiatus on a side adventure that I'm sure he prefers not to talk about is
I think it was on Uranus.
Lou Villagrana.
Hello,
Wow.
back from Uranus.
Yeah, see, I thought we lost him in 1962 or something. You know, we did stuff him. We did stuff him into the TARDIS on our way back, right?
That's right.
Yeah,
we finally found him.
There we go.
He was dancing at a go-go bar.
There we go.
You guys don't want to know the details.
The hardest part was trying to get those white go-go boots on. That was the hardest part of the whole thing, to be honest with you.
Trust us when we tell you it was a sight that you
don't want to
look
see.
Much better on radio. All right.
Yeah, the fringe skirt. The fringe skirt was a nightmare.
Oh, I know. I was kind of digging that part. That was you got great legs, Lou.
So
all
that's
right,
that's a great segue to Max von Sydow or Sydow.
There we go. Perfect.
Yes,
great
one of the
segue.
all-time
threw that out
actors. There. We're talking about the wonderful, amazing Max von Sydow, Sweden's shining star.
Exactly.
I didn't realize he was from Sweden until I read the article. I got to be honest with you.
Well, yeah,
he had some family overseas, but I didn't think he was actually from Sweden.
Yeah, his big movie, of course, back in the day was The Seventh Seal, right?
Yep.
Ingmar Bergman, the very famous, where he plays chess with death, very existential film, art house fare.
Yes, he doesn't even know how to play chess.
Yeah, he did a couple of them with Bergman and the Seventh Seal, of course, from 1956. But one of the ones that because when I was talking with my wife and I was talking about how we were gonna do this segment on Max von Sydow, she goes, I recognize the name, and I said, well, he played Jesus in Greatest Story Ever Told. She goes, oh, that guy, yeah.
Yeah, I think that was his actual American debut was playing Jesus, I believe. But of course, here in this Starlog issue, they're talking about him starring in what at the time was, set to be a massive blockbuster, the long-awaited
and motion picture, watch.
Yeah, Dune.
Yeah, that was a long-ass movie.
At the time, I guess it bombed spectacularly. It was directed by David Lynch. It has an all-star cast. It's based on a classic science fiction novel that people loved, that was revered, and it had been in what the works in one form or another for decades.
Wasn't
and
that
finally
book like
came
1,000 pages or something, or like 800 pages or something ridiculously long?
Oh yeah, it's it's along the lines of Lord of the Rings type stuff, just how long and dense it is. And then of course there were sequels to it after that. But it was part of that big boom of sci-fi and fantasy sort of in the late 60s, throughout the 70s. I always remember seeing the paperback on the shelves in the bookstore when I would go there, and just be like, what is this about? It was always the sandworm like coming up out of the sand and stuff like that.
And then it made it to HBO, didn't it? And had the guy flying around in the fat suit, and
Baron Harkonnen.
Yes.
But yeah, and then Max is in it as a not our Max von Sydow is in it as
Max von Overnighter
as a character. As a matter of fact, he talks about how he actually enjoys playing kind of, I wouldn't say lighthearted, but just sort of fantasy roles. He doesn't really enjoy being in art house fare all the time. He just likes to have fun in some of the things he's in. And he plays the character of Dr. Kynes, who's a very significant character. And again, this was an all-star film. It had so many people in it. You've got Jose Ferrer, Kyle MacLachlan as Paul Atreides, Richard Jordan, Linda Hunt, Brad Dourif, Everett McGill, Virginia Madsen, Kenneth McMillan is Baron Harkonnen.
Forget Sting?
Yep, Sting. Sting was in it. Patrick Stewart was in it. Dean Stockwell, Jurgen Prochnow. And Max von Sydow really gives such gravitas to his minor role. It's like, again, it's such a dense story. They couldn't unless you'd read the book, you couldn't understand what was going
That should
on
be
in the
like a
movie.
week-long movie. I mean, there's
Right.
so much to it. I don't know how you squeeze that into was it a 3-hour film or something at that point, or 3.5?
Well, it needed to be. I think it was
Yeah.
only. I think it barely ran 2 hours, to
Oh,
be
did it
Yeah, it
really?
was
honest.
No, I don't remember.
yeah,
It's been so long.
2 hours and 17 minutes, and and that was the thing, for me watching the movie, because I obviously I didn't see it in the theater, but I did see it later, in VHS. But that was the thing I remember about the movie being long, for a 1984 movie. But and the
Yeah.
flop thing, it's interesting because that movie or the book, it came out in 1965, and it had a lot of people liked it, and people were asking for it. Well, didn't they try to make the movie earlier in the 70s?
Yeah, there was gonna be a version that, Alexander Jodorowsky did, and there's actually a great, documentary about that called Jodorowsky's Dune, about his version of Dune and the people he would have cast in it. He would have had, I think he wanted Orson Welles as Baron Harkonnen.
Hmm.
He wanted, or I might be saying it wrong, it might be Baron Harkonnen. God, these Dune fans will eat me alive if I mispronounce stuff.
Namor, don't worry about
Yeah,
it.
exactly. And David Carradine, I think, was gonna be
Oh, no,
the
not David
father. Like,
Carradine.
yeah, and
Oh,
Jodorowsky wanted his own son for Paul Atreides.
oh,
And then
jeez.
I think they were gonna even have Salvador Dali in it in a small
What?
role. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
What?
Jodorowsky was a real, again, this would have been, if they made it, I bet Max von Sydow would have starred in that version because it was an art house version. Jodorowsky did a lot of these similar Ingmar Bergman style art house films, where everything was more about bizarre, abstract stuff going on the screen rather than a linear type story. But
Sure.
you should see the documentary. It's really good. I like the Dune lore and the stuff around Dune more than I probably actually like the stories and the books
Yeah.
themselves, because
It's
I did read the book, but I read the book eventually when I was in college, and I liked it. It was a good book, but I never read any of the sequels or any of the further books after that.
Yeah,
very
see, for me,
iconic.
I mean, I remember when I seeing the movie and just thinking, you know, because I probably saw the movie on VHS somewhere probably around 86, 87, somewhere
Max,
in
do you want to
there.
explain what VHS is for all the younger listeners?
I don't think anybody listening to this podcast is all too young that would not know what a VHS
It's a
is.
big
But
rectangular thing.
yeah, the
I don't
rectangular
think
thing.
Gen Z is going, "Oh, I want to listen to Starpod Star Trek." Sounds
Yeah,
great. I
On
mean,
VHS.
even the Star Trek series aren't hitting it big nowadays, unless it's guys our age, I suppose, watching
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was, and for me, I thought of it, the cinematography, the visuals on it, epic. And
Sure.
when Rich and I were talking about this, it's like kind of Lawrence of Arabia epic, with the big
Yeah.
sand dunes and the deserts and all of that. But for me, because I did not read the book, I kind of got lost pretty easy, and
Yeah,
it made the movie seem even longer to
yeah.
I'm not
me.
even sure the
He
later one was without getting lost into it, Max. That's a tough book to make into a movie, I think. I think
Well,
right.
I
Well,
guess it's kind of apropos we're doing it now, right? Because
Mm.
part two of
Juice
the new
came out.
version of Dune is out in theaters right now, and it just like broke box office records. It's so, I mean,
Really?
like, yeah, they sold out on all IMAX screens. They
Oh,
made like
wow.
$81 million this weekend on it, which I'm surprised
Wow.
wow.
because part one came out during the pandemic, so it just went right to HBO Max. It didn't even
Yeah.
play in the theaters.
Yeah.
Right.
And I guess it opened this weekend, and it's doing amazing.
Guess I better
Well,
go check it out.
I saw the theater preview for part two when I was at another movie, and I was like, holy cow, that looks cool. And not being, I haven't seen Dune the movie in a long time. Like I said, I probably sat and watched through it maybe a couple of times between 86 and 88. And I probably haven't picked it up since, but the previews for the new one does look pretty cool. It looked like something that I would go and see.
Yeah, I never got to sit through the first one all the way. I don't know if it just I didn't have enough time to sit in front of HBO or whatever it was at the time, but definitely remember I had my buddy gave me the books. Wow, whenever that came out, and whenever that movie came out to read, and honestly, I just got done, I think, reading The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. I'm like, man, I don't think I could go through another 800 pages of science fiction.
Well, that's what it is, right? It's all different worlds, and these
Yeah.
are all different houses. It's kind of like Game of Thrones, right? Like everybody's
Yeah.
from a certain house, House Atreides and
Yeah.
House Harkonnen or Harkonnen, whatever. I'm saying it wrong, Dune fans. Get off my back.
Right.
And it's 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 all along that. Like Game of Thrones, probably, I'm sure George R.R. Martin had Dune in mind when he was putting Game of Thrones together with all the different houses and things along
Sure.
those lines.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But
Well-
yeah, I mean, the 80s was such a great time for Sydow too, because he was in so many cool. I mean, he played Ming the Merciless in the Flash Gordon.
Yes, that's how I remember him the most. Either that
Right.
or when I went to see V for Victory, and he played
Okay.
I think the German general.
Yes. Okay. So you
with
saw
Stallone.
it was called. Did you see it in Europe?
I saw it. No, I saw it here. I saw it in theater. Matter of
Okay, so
fact,
the movie here was just called Victory.
yeah,
but in Europe
Victory.
they
So
called it V
I
for
was
Victory.
just completely today. I took Amanda to some event into a place called Red Bank, New Jersey, and there was an old theater that still had the curtains and the little light bulbs out front, like a stage, and it was a small theater. So the theater's there, but it's been taken over and over, and now it's like, Rocky Horror Picture Show. It's a lot of artsy stuff goes in there, but that's where I saw Victory, and I'm like, holy crap, that movie! Just today, I'm like, that movie theater's still here. Just completely coincidentally.
I love that movie. I love that movie.
This
Victory.
Stallone was a little cheesy, but
Yeah, but it was. I mean, it's the only movie that gets you excited about soccer, for crying out loud.
oh, especially then. Oh yeah.
Now it's really funny because now talking about our age difference. See, now for me, I remember, well, obviously, von Sydow from Greatest Story Ever Told, but also he played Father Merrin in The Exorcist.
Oh yeah, I mean, The Exorcist is
that's where I remember him from. And he played a lot. Well, of course, Ming. I mean, so that kind of stuff. And he played a brewmaster in Strange Brew. The comedy movie.
Yeah. Really?
He was in Ghostbusters as Vigo. I mean, he just has such an appearance. He just looks. The look and the voice. He's
fantastic in The Exorcist. I mean, that's the whole thing, right? I think he was like 40 years old when he played that role, but he was playing like an 80-year-old priest.
Yeah, he was playing
older.
I think he even says in this
roles when he was younger. So
he even says in this article, he's like, everybody thinks I'm so old because of The Exorcist. I was 40 when I was in that movie. They put makeup on me, because you always do kind of think of him as sort of he's sort of the old guy, like he's always either the villain or the wizard or something. He's also another great movie he was in that I loved was 3 Days of the Condor.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
There you go.
He's the assassin in that. He's great in that. And then of course he was in what's the other one? Oh, Conan the Barbarian. He was he's in that as well.
Yeah.
And I think he talks about that in this article, how he had great fun playing in that movie. Like he
plays the king there, and he played he was in Judge Dredd. He was one of the.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, he played
movies.
He played Zeus in Hercules.
Wow.
Sir Walter Locksley in Robin Hood, the 2009 version.
Wait, which one was that? Was that the one with which one was that? Was that
2000? No,
was that the one with oh my God, Russell Crowe? Was it that one or no? Before that, not the Kevin Costner one.
The Kevin Costner one was earlier.
That was like the 80s or 90s, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry, I'm trying to remember which one that was.
But I mean, so he's got a lot of those roles. I mean, he was in 1966. He was in a movie, The Quiller Memorandum, and that was a book that actually, when I was in middle school, that one of my English teachers recommended that I read. And so I haven't seen the movie, so I didn't, I'll have to look that up. But I do remember reading Quiller Memorandum, so it'd be interesting to see how he plays in that one. But yeah, so much stuff. I mean, obviously, like it would take like 3 pages of stuff to write down all of the different things that he did. But
sure,
but again, we're talking about Dune. It's not surprising that the movie didn't do well. I mean, because when you look at all the different movies that are out in 1984.
Oh yeah.
Well, again, it was just such a dense story to try and tell. I mean,
On film. Oh,
I because I can remember trying to see it again. Like I watched it after I read the books, and I'm just like, wow, they left out so much. Like
yeah.
they just some characters show up who's a major character in the book, and he's in the movie for like 5 minutes.
Mm.
And then so it's hard, really hard. I'd like to revisit it. I haven't revisited it. It has a very big cult following now. Like people have kind of like most of that 80s sci-fi or fantasy, they all have like a cult following, or people have tried to revisit the films and kind of enjoy them now.
But is it bigger than the cult following of The Last Starfighter, which also came out in 1984?
Wow.
That's one that you like. Yeah. Yeah. It was an odd period for science fiction, right? The 80s. There's so many classics out there that we kind of forgot about.
Crawl.
Yeah.
Which I actually
Crawl.
saw at that theater also today. Crawl. We went to the Karate Kid, and then we said, "Hey, let's watch another movie." His dad's like, "All right, we'll buy you tickets. What do you want to see? Crawl? All right, we'll go see Crawl." So we spent like 4 hours in the movie theater watching movies that day. Yeah, it was crazy.
Well, like all good things, the spice must flow and this show must end. I am Dr. Durant, also known as Rich Hurley. You can find me on YouTube on Dr. Durant's Sanctum. And joining me here this evening for this lovely chat about sandworms was the Italian fruitcake.
So I'm Lou Malagrana. You can find me on our Facebook group on Amigo Like. You can find YouTube channel My Amigo Like, and you can also visit, if you're into the classic collectible action figures of the day, myamigolike.com. And now I'm going to pass the torch down to who used to look like Santa Claus, and I can't believe he doesn't look like Santa Claus anymore, Max. Totally changed.
Yeah, well, it is the time of the year now. I'm Max Overnighter, and you'll find my wit and humor as I make funny comments on Dr. Durant's Sanctum. My Migo Like, I'm hanging out in the Facebook page, Migo Like. You also find me around some of the Batman collector groups, the mid-century modern stuff. So if you see me out there, pop in, say hey, and good talking with y'all.
May your knife chip and break.
All right.